Mock stood with her arms folded, her eyes locked skeptically on Brenda as she processed what she had just told her.
He wants you to unlock an ancient mystery? What am I supposed to do with that?
Brenda shrugged weakly. She was feeling ill again and tried not to look down at her friend's severed hand.
That's exactly what he told me. An ancient treasure, hidden somewhere in this building. I told him I knew of no treasure.
Then why does he think you can find it?
Obviously, he's insane. He told me that Glen would hand me the way.
Brenda thought about the statement as she said it, and suddenly came to a grim realization. She asked to see the symbols again, and Detective Davison pulled up the images on his camera. Squeezed in Glen's palm was a piece of papyrus paper which was covered in what appeared to be images and symbols. Brenda began feeling repulsed by her captor's sadistic play on words. Glen will hand her the way. As Brenda looked up in the GICC, she saw the Egyptian symbol of sun with a crystal chandelier hanging from it. She recalled admiring some of the other symbols scattered around the building when she came running in. She noticed the sun symbol above was exactly the same as the sun on the note below. Then she looked to the left and noticed that there was a window, which means there must be a third floor. Does he want me to go up there? Does he think that's where the treasure is? Insane, she thought.
This man who called me,
Brenda told Mock,
was the only one who knew I was coming to the GICC tonight, so whoever informed you I was here is your man. I recommend.
Where I get my information is none of your concern.
Mock interrupted, voice sharpening.
My top priority at the moment is to cooperate with this man, and I have information suggesting you are the only one who can give him what he wants.
And my top priority is to find my friend.
Brenda replied, frustrated. Mock inhaled deeply, her patience clearly being tested.
If we want to find Mr. Moody, we have one course of action. That is to start cooperating with the person who seems to know where he is.
Mock checked her time.
Our time is limited. I can assure you it is imperative we comply with this man's demands quickly.
How exactly?
Brenda asked, incredulous.
By looking for buried treasure? There is no treasure, Chief Mock. This guy's a lunatic.
Mock stepped close, less than a foot from Brenda.
Let me point this out about your lunatic.
She stared directly at Brenda and then glanced at Davison.
In my business, one learns there is a fine line between insanity and genius. We would be wise to give this man a little respect.
He cut off a man's hand.
My point exactly. That is hardly the act of an uncommitted or uncertain individual. More important, Ms. Teague, this man obviously believes you can help him. He brought you all the way to Galveston, and he must have done it for a reason.
He said the only reason he thinks I can find this treasure is that Glen told him I can.
And why would Glen Moody say that if it weren't true?
I'm sure Glen said no such thing. And if he did, then he did so under pressure. He was confused, frightened. Or both.
Yes. It's called interrogational torture, and it's quite effective. All the more reason Mr. Moody would tell the truth.
Mock spoke as if she'd had personal experience with this technique.
Did he explain why Glen thinks you alone can find this treasure?
Brenda shook her head.
Ms. Teague, if your reputation is correct, then you and Glen Moody both share an interest in this sort of thing: secrets, historical esoterica, mysticism, and so on. In all of your discussions with Glen, he never once mentioned to you anything about a secret treasure in Galveston?
Brenda could scarcely believe she was being asked this question by a high-ranking officer.
I'm certain of it. Glen and I talk about some pretty mysterious things, but believe me, I'd tell him to get his head examined if he ever told me there was an ancient treasure hidden anywhere at all, particularly one that leads to ancient wisdom.
I'm sorry. The man told you specifically what this treasure leads to?
He didn't have to.
Brenda motioned to the hand.
The Hand of the Mysteries is a formal invitation to pass through a mystical gateway and acquire ancient secret knowledge. It's powerful wisdom known as the ancient treasures, otherwise known as the lost wisdom of all the ages.
So, you've heard of the secret he believes is hidden here?
A lot of historians have heard of it.
Then how can you say the treasure does not exist?
With respect, ma'am, we've all heard of the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and space aliens. That does not mean they exist, either.
The loud squawk of Davison's radio interrupted them. "Detective," the voice on the radio said. He quickly snatched his radio from his belt.
"Davison here."
"Sir, we've completed a search of the grounds. There's no one here that fits the description Chief gave us. Any further orders?" Davison shot a quick glance at Mock, clearly expecting a reprimand, but Chief Mock seemed uninterested. Davison moved away from Brenda and Mock, speaking quietly into his radio. Mock's unwavering focus remained on Brenda.
You're saying the secret he believes is hidden in Galveston is a fantasy?
Brenda nodded.
A very old myth.
And yet it's still around?
As are many equally improbable beliefs.
I see. So, what exactly are these ancient treasures?
Brenda exhaled. "Have you got a few weeks?"
In short, the ancient treasures refer to a body of secret knowledge that was amassed long ago. One aspect of this knowledge is that it allegedly enables its practitioners to access powerful abilities that lie dormant in the human mind. The enlightened who possessed this knowledge vowed to keep it veiled from the masses because it was considered far too potent and dangerous for the uninitiated.
Dangerous. In what way?
The information was kept hidden for the same reason we keep matches from children. In the correct hands, fire can provide illumination, but in the wrong hands, fire can be highly destructive.
Mock tilted her head and glared at her.
Tell me, Ms. Teague, do you believe such powerful information could truly exist?
Brenda was not sure how to respond. Virtually every mystical tradition on Earth revolved around the idea that there existed arcane knowledge capable of imbuing humans with mystical, almost godlike powers. Tarot and I Ching gave men the ability to see the future, alchemy gave men immortality through the fabled philosopher's stone, Wicca permitted advanced practitioners to cast powerful spells. The list went on and on. Brenda could not deny the historical record of these traditions. A treasure trove of documents, artifacts, and artwork that, indeed, clearly suggested the ancients had a powerful wisdom that they shared only through allegory, myths, and symbols, ensuring that only those properly initiated could access their power. Nonetheless, as a realist and a skeptic, Brenda remained unconvinced.
Let's just say I'm a skeptic.
She told Mock.
I have never seen anything in the real world to suggest ancient philosophical treasures are anything other than legends and recurring mythological archetypes. It seems to me that if it were possible for humans to acquire miraculous powers, there would be evidence. And yet so far, history has given us no men with superhuman powers.
Mock arched an eyebrow.
That's not entirely true.
Brenda hesitated, realizing that for many religious people there was indeed a precedent for human gods, Jesus being the most obvious.
Admittedly,
she said.
There are plenty of educated people who believe this empowering wisdom truly exists, but I'm not yet convinced.
Is Glen Moody one of those people?
Mock asked, glancing toward the hand on the floor. Brenda could not bring herself to look at the hand.
Glen is a faith pastor and he comes from a family lineage that has always had a passion for ancient treasures.
Was that a yes?
Mock asked.
I can assure you that even if Glen believes ancient treasures are real, he does not believe they are accessible through some kind of hidden treasure in Galveston, Texas. He understands metaphorical symbolism, which is something his captor apparently does not.
Mock nodded.
So, you believe this treasure is a metaphor?
Of course, in theory anyway. It's a very common metaphor, a mystical treasure through which one must enter to become enlightened. Doors to treasures are common symbolic constructs that represent transformative rites of passage. To look for a literal passage to treasure would be like trying to locate the actual gates of heaven.
Mock seemed to consider this momentarily.
But it sounds like Mr. Moody's captor believes you can locate an actual treasure.
Brenda exhaled.
He's made the same error many zealots make, confusing metaphor with a literal reality.
If this man wants you to locate some kind of treasure for him, why wouldn't he simply tell you how to find it? Why all the dramatics? Why give you a hand with symbology?
Brenda had asked herself the same question and the answer was unsettling.
Well, it seems the man we are dealing with, in addition to being mentally unstable, is also highly educated. This hand is proof that he is well versed in the ancient wisdoms as well as their ways. Everything he has done tonight was done in perfect accordance with ancient protocols. Traditionally, the hand of the mysteries is a sacred invitation, and therefore it must be presented in a sacred place.
Mock's eyes narrowed.
The GICC is a sacred place?
She seemed unconvinced.
Yes, Glen once told me that the GICC was built on the grounds of an ancient Native American burial mound.